but it's a choice you made and I'm going to hold you to it. So I'm not going to let you manipulate the group by not deciding. Either go to the gym or start walking with us. That's the choice. If you say nothing, we're going and you're staying with us. So it is a choice that they can leave.
They said that it would be fine if they stayed in the gym. They didn't want to do the cooking. So.
If they're being very disrespectful, we can
they're
send them
being
back to
bad,
Coach
we
K.
send them back.
if they're being like real bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we don't want to deal with it. You can go back over there.
And they were actually very surprised with me. They were like, I can choose to leave? And I was like, yeah.
That might come back to bite you. Can you think about how that could come back to haunt you later?
I don't know, a lot of them don't like Coach K so much either.
Well, it might not. Sometimes an opt-out like that is infectious and spreads. So if you have one and then two, and then you might have the whole group one time opt out on you. Remember, if you're going to offer the choice, it needs to be a real choice. If I say you can stay here or go to the gym, then really what I'm implying is that everybody can stay with me or go to the gym. So just, think ahead to what could possibly happen if they all opt out and go to the gym. It's probably not going to happen, but if it's a possibility, you need to have a plan for that possibility.
I was going to have another suggestion for when you're transitioning, you could use that time if it's possible for them to run and get some of that energy out. One way to get from point A, I don't know if that's a
Yeah,
possibility.
they're not allowed to run. That's one of the hardest things actually, is not letting them run, is because usually they run. And although the problem, or not the problem, but the solution we had a couple weeks ago is our chef, the kids that didn't want to go and that did want to go, I took 3 of them, and then Kayla actually took like 6 of them or more, and they went and they ran laps. Not as a punishment, but they needed extra time to release energy.
But potentially, could you do lunges or do something that's still not
Another
running?
way to move that isn't running and isn't walking.
That is getting them something active.
And this
like
is
it's-
walking.
Or how many steps does it take to get to our destination? Did that work?
Just something to get them
Yeah, so-
active, because that's one of the things you'd mentioned that.
Right, and so Allison's listening. You're identifying what the mistaken goal is. I need to be active. I need to move my body, which is perfect if you can figure out a way to let them be more physical. Or it might take a little more time, but we're going to go run 1 lap here, walk back, and get to the kitchen.
I don't know why they're not allowed to run.
Well, it's probably
just
this
like
sort
running in
of
the hallways.
school
Yeah.
things about you
But
always
we
walk
are
in the
outside.
hall.
There's like a wooden thing. It's like
Like a little deck.
Yeah.
The deck over there. I used to be on the education council over there, so I know what you're talking about.
That was
So,
excellent.
I don't want you breaking rules they have during the day, so I check. But that's a great idea, is to let them move there in a different way, or break into smaller groups. You take half and you take half. It might be easier to keep them together.
I just
than
didn't know
the
if,
whole
like,
group.
don't run is just like a default, oh, you're not supposed to run ever kind of thing, that maybe
And
that's
in
the
the
rule.
in the little readings or article we gave you, we try to always phrase things positively. So please walk, we say, instead of don't run. We say what we want instead of focusing on what we don't want. The other thing, just sort of, I don't know, it's a little more, as you were saying, bad behavior. This is what triggered for me. I try to use different behavior to talk about challenging behavior or mistaken behavior. I try to avoid words like good and bad. It's one of those things, if you think it, you'll do it. If you do it, you'll say it. If you say it, it becomes a habit. I don't want to have in my head that children are bad or good. I just want to have, there's these children, it's easier for them to follow the rules, and for these children it's more challenging right now. I'm going to get them from this camp to this camp. As I know, sometimes as adults, we start to not trust that child, not give them choices if they've made some inappropriate choices. And I hate it when that kid is the bad kid. And you don't have to say it, it gets implied. And other children pick up on it. I've had groups of children for years, and there's often that one child with a lot of challenges. And here's what happens in a group if you're not careful. Something happens, something gets broken. The children will say, it was Joseph. And you'll look around and say, Joseph isn't even here today. And that's what happened, is sort of that bad kid, bad behavior gets going. It's really infectious. I was reading this article the other day about this child who did a tour of his school. So of course, if you're going to let a child do a tour, you have the one who has the appropriate behaviors. He went through the whole thing. In the last room, he said, And this is the timeout chair. It's Benjamin's chair. We don't like him. We're not his friend. That's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid having that one kid who's the bad kid, or those 2 kids, or those 3 boys with the knives don't become the bad kids. Because guess what? If that's the expectation you have of them, they'll need it. And if you give up on them, then they have no reason to change any of their behaviors. So I don't know, that's sort of a little soapbox thing. That I don't think people are bad. I think people make inappropriate choices. People have challenges. But I don't think people are globally good or bad. I don't consider myself good. Sometimes I make better choices than others. And I'm pretty much socially appropriate, especially when I'm at work. But not always. So none of us is really all good or all bad. Correction, we talked about offering choices. The last thing on that page is what we call nonverbal intervention. And I guess I didn't point out the things that are in bold on your handout are things that were mentioned in the readings that we sent you ahead of time. And sometimes that's all it takes, especially once you've built a relationship with children. You don't have to say anything anymore. Or if you've said it a million times, sometimes you can just do a nonverbal thing. Child is really obsessed with weapon play, makes the inappropriate choice on the playground quite often. We have many conversations and debates and discussions and reasons. And last week he started it up, and I just looked over and went, you know, and he stopped. And sometimes they just don't want to hear it again. They just don't want to hear the whole thing, even if you give them a legitimate reason. And the converse is the same. Instead of that praise stuff, you can just do a little high five, thumbs up, nod of the head kind of thing, just to check in. I'm noticing what you're doing right now. Or more of that, less of that kind of thing. Happened with one of our children who's been told the rules every day at snack. Somebody in your role who was supervising her snack table today was reinforcing these are the rules of snacks. He goes, oh, I know that! You already told me. But, you know, you're right. It doesn't feel very good to have reminded the same thing over and over. So once you show me, I'll stop telling you. So it's not telling me, it's showing me, right? And she wasn't demonstrating the correct behavior, which is why the adult kept saying it. If you don't want to be told, then you do it and no one will tell you anymore. They can't feel good after being in school all day. And there's a new adult with a new set of rules, more compliance. Or sometimes I have to say something I know they're going to, I'm like, yes, we have to wash our hands again. So eating snack, and they did that fire drill. So we all have to go out. Well, I can't let them come back and eat because they've touched everything on the way out and back. Every toy, every plant, every roll. So, you know, this is really dry, but we're all going to have to wash our hands again before we finish that.